Hi everyone, I'm Nidhi Piplani Kapur. I'm a PhD student in internationalization at home at the Southeast Technological University, Waterford campus, where I am undertaking a research study funded by Government of Ireland, Research Ireland, and I'm focusing on embedding a culture for internationalization at home in the Irish context. But for today's presentation, I'll be talking about the impact through internationalization at home and from particularly from a perspective of my own institution, which is an Irish Technological University. And as a point of departure, I will be taking the most widely cited definition by Professor Jos Peelen and Professor Elspeth Jones that talks about the intentionality of integrating international and intercultural dimensions into the formal and informal curriculum, essentially targeting all students in a domestic learning environment, which I'm sure will be in a lot of presentations that we'll have today in the conference. And the need for internationalization at home essentially is not very different from other uh, universities in Europe and UK as well, where only a very few percentage of students, like in Irish context, only 4% of students are internationally mobile, something that is universal as a trend that is being seen. And this is from a the last report by the Higher Education Authority. There has been an update since 2023, which gives us statistics. So, from a national context, internationalization at home has become something that is now very explicitly mentioned in the strategy, where often internationalization at home has been seen to be important, and as well as developing language competencies to develop international and intercultural competencies. And there is a realization that internationalization at home can be very useful as a conduit for developing, competencies that will help learners or students from Irish higher education institutions to work in multinational, multicultural, and diverse workforces at home or abroad. However, it's realized that there is more attention that's needed. And at constant places in the document, you will see that internationalization at home has been used uh, juxtaposing with learners who cannot travel, which reflects an assumption because internationalization at home targets all students and not just those who cannot travel. The strategy has been it's a welcome step to see internationalization at home in this strategic document at the national level. However, there is imprecision around how it will be implemented or how the Irish government is really going to be supporting institutions in developing internationalization at home. And they have kind of also realized this. There are no key metrics or in how institutions will be suggest or operationalize such a thing. So that's a piece that is to be seen from an institutional context. As I mentioned, I am from the Southeast Technological University. So in 2022, three institutions in the Southeast region of Ireland came together and merged as a big university, which is Southeast Technological University. So it's a very fairly new university, but legacy institutions that have come together to merge it. And we have the strategy that was formed for the period 2023-2028, which is connecting for impact. And the strategic document also mentions internationalization at home as a priority. And I did have the first chance to work with senior leadership in developing uh, as a in the consultation group as developing the strategies as a student representative. And while this just reflects a part of the whole picture that is more detailed out in the global engagement strategy, but it has been seen as one of the priorities for global engagement, where the focus has been put on continuous professional development of staff and making internationalization at home more visible in the institution. Some of the things that if you see, while the institutional strategy came months before the national strategy and my own project started in 2021, speaks to the fact that even though internationalization at home was not something that was explicitly out there, and but it was realized as something which is very important. And some of the ways my own institution has been building an appreciation around it is by including it in the university strategic plan and global engagement plan, having a dedicated working group of IH, where even I have had the chance to contribute. And it includes a mix of academic staff, senior leadership, and people from the support services in student facing roles. The university has invested in three scholarships, which is the government scholarships, including my own project and others on inclusive internationalization and internationalization for higher education for society. And then we have also been engaging in a lot of seminars by the experts. So Professor Jos Pielen and Professor Elspeth Jones, Eva Kurdelau, and others have come and delivered sessions with faculty to help them internationalize the curriculum component. We're also launching the Irish Association for International Education. So Southeast Technology University is going to be the lead university working with other traditional university in this, and we're launching a network in 2025 June, and the conference first pillar is internationalization at home. We're the Irish universities, including the Southeast Technological Universities, are also part of the European University Alliances. So through that, we have got a good opportunity to develop and enhance the teaching and learning component, working very closely and prepare joint offerings with other partners. So there are total 9 institutions. And one of those institutions, La Rochelle University in France, we have developed a micro-credential, which will go live next month. And then there have been trainings around collaborative online international learning, virtual exchanges, celebration of festivals, and international student societies. So a lot of informal curriculum pieces already been up there into the picture, but less formalized under a big umbrella such as IH. Then communities of practice, we have our own small communities of practice, but they have been largely driven by the working group. Certainly, it's been worked around to give a more a formal and a regular and a sustaining picture to how we can sustain regular discussions around different aspects of internationalizing the curricula or support services, and then utilizing and mobility as a complement and internationalization as a complement, internationalization at home as a complement to mobility activities. So visiting different institutions to understand how they have really implemented, how it is visible in the institutional culture, and how it is spoken about, what more has been done in the area. So that has taken place so far. However, we have a few challenges like other institutions, even though we have accepted onto a definition as a working group, but it's not understood in the wider university community. So that's been on the challenge to agree on something that'll speak to everybody. Then while internationalization at home features on the institutional strategies, but at the same time, there has to be policies around it and support systems created, which is yet to be done. Champions, some of those were part of the working group, but it needs people coming across from different disciplines, and not everybody's as motivated or understands the value that internationalization at home can bring. And the constant feature is the familiarity or the unfamiliarity with the fact that it is not a competing priority. Quality, diversity, inclusion, sustainability, internationalization at home are interdependent, but often it's been seen as another priority needing extra work, extra attention, extra resources, whereas there's much more focus on sustainability and equality, diversity, and inclusion. So that is something that we're trying to address. And then creating, because it's a publicly funded institution, so creating mechanisms to reward and recognize those efforts has been something that has been in discussions but not operationalized. And my own study tries to look at these aspects from other Irish universities as well. So my own research is about embedding a culture for internationalization at home and preparing for the changing context of higher education in Ireland. So I'm looking at both traditional and technological universities. So I'm looking at how it is interpreted in the Irish context, what are the challenges and opportunities in developing a culture, and then proposing a framework that can help universities to develop a culture for internationalization at home. And the intended impact, which is something also very important to the discussion today, is that what we're hoping is to create a heightened awareness about what internationalization at home means, what it can do, what it intends to contribute, and how and to try and address the question of what is in it for me. Then improve teaching learning practices, and a large part of it does come from continuous professional development and seeing it as a more regular feature than ad hoc CPD weeks that happen, and how it can tie back to what's happening in the classroom, and so that students and faculty see a bigger picture than just the parts and not the whole, and see the whole and not just the parts. So that, and then the third is a dream state, really committed leadership and engage staff and learners with various initiatives, whether it's a classroom or outside, and a leadership that provides supports, resources, policies, reward, and recognition reward mechanisms around it. So it's a long-standing feature, and it is going to take a lot of time. It's not an overnight thing to develop thing, because it's a cultural development. It needs a lot of change. It's about change management, which also my studies try to address. So that aspect is essentially what we're looking at. And then a curriculum that contributes to institutional distinctiveness, which is really about um, making this idea very attractive to students, that when they come to an Irish university, it is not just a global university, but because you have the chance to travel abroad, because not everybody ends up going abroad for various reasons, and many of those are very similar stories to other countries. But uh, the fact that when they come inside an Irish institution, they'll be prepared and exposed to diverse cultures, not just by the presence of international students, but by a curricula that exposes them to different cultures and ways of being, that develops their understanding, knowledge, skills, and abilities, uh, that prepares them to work, to function in, or rather to live in multicultural societies, embracing peace, justice, and trying to contribute to addressing shared challenges. And finally, what we want is the development of intercultural competence and global citizenship in both the learners and staff, which is something that is not an instant payoff from internationalization at home, we realize, but at least other steps that we take can help in developing those competencies that we see, and also tie back to the Global Citizens 2030 strategy by the government. So that is all. These are some of the references I leave you with, which you can have a look at in your own free time. And that's my supervisory team with Dr. Don O'Neill, Dr. Helen Murphy, and Dr. Suzanne Denieffe. I'm glad I'm working with the senior leadership that has a lot of influence in, and understand the value of internationalization at home, and how it can be a useful conduit in developing a culture around it that can be useful to prepare learners and staff to thrive in this multicultural world. So I'm leaving you with my email ID and my social links. So please feel free to connect. I'm happy to chat and share more about my own research, and of course take up some questions when we go live. Thank you.